Joining us now here in Doha is Andreas Krieg, Assistant Professor at King's College London and researcher at the Newar East Centre for Security and Strategy. Thank you so much for being with us, Andreas. Undoubtedly, Russia's intervention in the airstrikes that began 1 year ago have changed the course of this war. We have multiple players in Syria today, the US, Russia, shifting alliances among the rebels. Starting off with Russia first, what do you think the end game is for Putin? Keeping Assad in power still?
That's the primary objective why Russia got involved, is to try to consolidate the Assad control of the areas that it controls today. That's especially Latakia, but also now Aleppo, because this is the entrance into the north. So it's primarily about this. It's about securing Assad.
But long term, has the objective changed?
The problem is, I think in Syria right now, we cannot really speak of any long-term objectives. None of the players on the ground have any long-term objectives because we can see that there is no consensus. So for any long-term goals, strategic goals to actually develop, we need to have actual consensus, and there is no consensus. So none of the powers here look for securing long-term objectives. They're looking at short and mid-term objectives. And this is why some of the alliances can actually happen, even though looking at Russia and Turkey, for example, they don't really have an overlap strategically, but they might have that operationally in the midterm. They might have an overlap.
Yeah, we heard Turkey indeed talk about, just in the last 2 days, talk about working with Russia, saying that it's more than ready to work with Russia and Iran as well in securing a ceasefire in Syria. And the Russians talk of a joint action with Turkey as well. But a joint action where? On what exactly?
Exactly. I think we should not mistake Erdogan and Turkey is not interested in changing its long-term strategy, which is to get rid of Assad. So there, obviously, we have a clash of interest between what Iran and Russia wants because they want to keep him in power. But as Turkey is moving further south, they will interfere in the operational theater with Iranian forces and proxies as well as Russia. So there needs to be some sort of coordination. And here, I think the priorities for Turkey are a lot more short and mid-term. It is about making sure that the Kurds don't win more territory, as well as crushing ISIS. And this is where the overlap is. Fighting terrorism, or whatever Turkey considers to be terrorism, is ISIS, while for Russia and Iran, terrorism is anything that is not Assad. Any rebel group is a terrorist group and thereby a target.
Andreas, what about the Syrian political opposition in all this? I mean, we talk about the Russians, the Iranians, the Turks, the Americans. What about Syria's political opposition? I mean, they seem to be left on the sidelines. There seem to be spectators in Syria's war.
Not really spectators. They're still trying. They have an absolute mountain to climb at the moment. That is almost impossible. On the one hand, they want to secure the civilian population because that's their main society community support. On the other hand, they don't have the weaponry. They don't have all the technology that they need in order to fight against the technology of the Russians, especially Russian air power. So they're fighting as much as they can. But if they don't receive any aid, any military aid on the ground, there will be absolutely no future for the opposition, because it's about Russia moving in. Iran is now moving in with 6,000 Shia militias from all over the Islamic world. They're moving into neighborhoods, they're clearing neighborhoods, and the next day they move to the next neighborhood and they're losing the old neighborhood because the opposition is moving back in. So it's basically a tit for tat where nobody is actually ever able to consolidate their power.
Certainly a very complex situation. Thank you very much, Andreas, for your thoughts. Very good to hear you on this. Andreas Krieg of King's College London joining us here in Doha.
Thank you.
Plenty more.